All right. I guess, well, I'll hit you guys with questions, but I'll give you kind of an opening. But obviously, end of season wrap. We made that news yesterday around the change with Rocco. I said this obviously yesterday. You guys have seen my statement from yesterday. I'm not sure I can elaborate much more on it. Rocco was a tremendous partner. Worked tirelessly every day to try and put this team in the best position to be successful, not just at the major league level, but across the organization and all the way through the minor leagues. And it mattered to him, all the things that ultimately come with this job. It mattered to him to do it well and to try and be a great partner across the board inside this organization. And I know our people on the business side, our people across the group, our people through the minor leagues, our scouts, everyone felt that way. So I can't thank him enough for the work that he did over the course of his time here. And I know that nothing but good things are happening for him and Allie and his family going forward. It was a difficult conversation, of course, as I think you all might imagine. It's not a surprise to anyone, the relationship I had with him personally and professionally. So I know that he cares very deeply about this organization and wants to see the players and everyone else succeed going forward. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Okay, so then why fire him?
Yeah, it's a fair question, Doogie. That's a conversation that works directly with ownership and ultimately a collaborative conversation around what were the right reasons to make the change. Obviously, we didn't perform the way we wanted to over the last couple of years. That's no secret. And these are never easy decisions. There's no one reason for anything. But I worked closely with ownership to spend some time together. They discussed their perspectives on this, and we ultimately it led to an organizational decision to make that change.
What does ownership expect? I mean, are they talking about wins and losses? Are they saying we just want you to go get a bunch of prospects? What's the mission statement?
In terms of next steps, so going forward, we continue to be in I will say, and admittedly, a bit of a transition phase. As Joe had announced, I guess a little over a month ago now, or the months blend together at this point. The change in the ownership structure and around limited partners coming in to be a part of this conversation. That is still ongoing. We're not quite obviously at the finish line with respect to that. My instructions at this point, obviously, to focus on this team, right? Get to the end of the season. What we had happened yesterday. In terms of off-season plan, we're still working through that, right? The off-season doesn't begin and end in October. We know that. It usually happens during the course of this month. But I don't have clear direction yet on exactly where we're headed going into this off-season. I hope to have those conversations over the next couple of weeks.
With a possible work stoppage in 2027, or at least you have to think about that, and regional cable has changed and the influx of money there and all those things, and ticket sales, I guess, to an extent. Where does that factor in when you're looking at it right now? It looks like a real unclear future for Major League Baseball, but certainly for the Twins.
Yeah, I think my focus right now for 2026 is really 26. Obviously, what you mentioned, there's news around. We know that the collective bargaining agreement comes up at that time. All I can focus on is what we can control, right? Some of that stuff is well beyond my pay grade, so to speak. It's something that is outside of my space. It'll be something we'll talk about with ownership around this offseason's plan and what that means for 26, but not just 26, 27, 28, and beyond. We always have that discussion. This will be a different version of that discussion with some limited partners involved in the conversation in a way that we haven't had to date, and I haven't had it yet. So I think my hope is over the next month, actually when maybe a month from now, I'll have a better idea to be able to answer some of those questions. But as it stands right now, we're focused on what we can do internally.
Is this team in disarray right now?
That's not the way I'd view it. I look at a team that at the end of this season, a lot of young players took some real steps forward. And I think that anytime you end a season from a performance standpoint and you don't win the games that you want to win, it's fair to question, okay, where is the team? But when I look at this group and I look out on the field right now and I see young players at the end of the season, look at the young pitching down the stretch there, whether it was Mick Abel or Taj Bradley or Simeon or others that kind of joined, Zebi, I can name a number of others that joined guys like Pablo and Joe Ryan and others that we know can be real core contributors on the starting side. Bailey with a good offseason and a healthy offseason getting himself back on track. I see an Austin Martin taking steps forward to join a group that's a really good young position player group. So I think that there's steps we need to take. We're younger. We're definitely less experienced than we've been over the last couple of years. But I was talking to Byron Buxton leaving the other day in Philadelphia, and we talked about there's a lot of talent in this room, in this core. So let's see where things take us. Ultimately, the offseason has just begun, but I feel like this is a group that has a lot of talent within the mix, and trying to figure out exactly how to extract all of that on the field is really important.
Derek, with what you guys didn't do in the offseason this past year and what you did at the trade deadline, do you think that Rocco maybe got an unfair shake?
Well, listen, every season we go into it with the ups and the downs and the challenges, right? And I think that this offseason we invested in, brought in some players that really helped us, right? Harrison Bader was a great fit for this club. Danny Coulomb played a really nice role. So did Ty France. That was a compliment to a group that we felt was really strong. But when you don't perform, this is no one individual. I said it yesterday in my comments. This isn't about Rocco failure in any way, shape, or form. This is a collective group that ultimately we didn't get to what we wanted to achieve. And that's disappointing because it's first and foremost on me. It's my responsibility to put this team in the best position to be successful. And we didn't get there this year. Now, we can break down and parse out all the reasons why and what went well and what didn't go well. But ultimately, it's about now, how do we make sure it goes better going forward and what kind of team we can put together and put on the field in 26 and beyond.
Would you say Rocco was stunned by the news yesterday?
Rocco and I had a very deep and long conversation. I think nobody in this game, when things don't go as well from a team performance standpoint, gets to the end of the season and doesn't think to themselves, okay, some challenges here that we faced, certainly with the way it ended in 24 and 25. So I don't think that, because of he and I have very open dialogue and conversations about it, I think that he took it, certainly like a pro and as a partner. And I, discussed with him lots of things that we won't get into here, from a private standpoint. But he wants nothing but the best for this organization, for the players going forward.
How did we get to this point, Derek? I mean, 2 years ago, you won a playoff series. Mm-hmm. Heck, last year until early August, you played good baseball. You had a double-digit winning streak earlier this year. How exactly are we at this point?
Dude, it's a great question and one that I'm wrestling with and keeps me up at night and wakes me up really early. Exactly. We obviously, from a team performance, I could say it. We're not going to sit here and break down player by player, performance by performance, but we went through stretches this year where we thought we were playing the type of baseball that you just described that put us in position to win, but we didn't play that consistently enough. There were stretches where our bullpen pitched great. There were aspects of the way they were pitching that pitched great, and then games that we would lose that we thought we shouldn't lose because of late game outcomes. Right? There were times where our starting rotation was the core and the anchor to this club over the last couple of years. Then there were stretches where we just kind of lost track of that a little bit and didn't have that. And same is true on the position player side. We didn't get enough. I would say that's the one area that, as we think about it collectively going forward, we didn't get the consistent overall offensive performance that I was hoping we would get over a long period of time over the course of the year. But I think at the end of the season, what I'm proud of with this group is that even despite knowing where we were at the deadline and changes that were made and what we did going forward, that they put in the work to try and get better. And there were a lot of good outcomes in the later portion of this season because of the work that they put in individually to try and get better. I remember in Cleveland after the deadline talking to a number of players, and a bunch of guys used the word opportunity. And this is an opportunity for me to take a step forward, for me to grow, for me to develop and get better. And we saw some of that at the end of the season. So it again gets back to, I believe that there's a lot of talent in that room and around that team that I think can continue to carry us forward.
What's the profile of the new manager, whatever, what are you looking for? A developer, a seasoned, patient veteran? What are you looking for?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that every manager, when you look across baseball, winning managers come in all shapes and sizes, right, with all kinds of different backgrounds. So as we sit here today, we have to keep that wide open. We have to think about different experiences, different backgrounds, different personality types, different fits for our group. But I think the core message for anyone that we would bring in is we want a good partner that wants to work, organizationally to help kind of set a vision, work with us on that. It's not us putting the vision on the manager. They have to be a partner in that. They have to help develop. And in our situation, in our market, and the dynamics, this is no secret. We're going to need to develop players at the big league level while also trying to bring in some veteran guys that are going to help us win. So you need the ability to work both with veteran guys who've been there before and young players who are going to continue to develop. And I feel like that's the type of person that we'll go seek and try and work through over the weeks and whether weeks and months to come, so to speak, to build out exactly what that group's going to look like at the big league level.
Derek, you ran down a lot of the issues as you saw them, the things that the how we got here question, but how much of that could have been affected by the manager?
Well, a lot of it isn't in Rocco's control. Let's call it what it is, right? I think that's clear. Baseball seasons, are long, right? They're challenging. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of influences that make things go the way they go, right? Players perform well, players perform poorly. There's health, there's injuries, there's young players learning, there's veteran players who maybe are struggling, right? All of that happens. we always view this as a collective mission, and it's all of our responsibility to try and put the team in the best position to be successful. And we didn't do that, right, collectively. So I think everyone today, I mean, I talking to staff yesterday and certainly talking to Rocco, and this is not just the last couple of days, but really over the last couple months, right? We all had to look in the mirror a little bit and say, what could we do differently and what could we do better? And the only thing you can control at this point is how you go about doing that work going forward. And I'm proud of the way our players approach that. I'm proud of the way a lot of our staff approach that too. I think that you can show up every day and try and get better. And ultimately, that's got to be our focus from this point forward.
For the 2026 season that feels uncertain across baseball, how do you sell this team to the fans next year? I mean, it was a down year for the fans.
No doubt.
So how do you sell this to the fans?
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you come off a season where you don't perform well, it's a challenge, right? To look out there and go, okay, what's the hope? What does it look like going forward? I said it on the front end, and I think I'll probably repeat myself a little bit. But when I think about, we had two guys represent us on the All-Star team, right? Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan. Those guys are still in that clubhouse, right? And they're guys that we know can really lead. It would have been nice to have Pablo Lopez on the mound for a lot more than we had him this year. We know when he's on the mound the type of team that we can be. And we know Bailey Ober's been a guy that's been a top 20, 30 starter in the game at different times and ultimately didn't quite get there this year, kind of battling through some things. But when I look around that room and I think about young players that are in there, whether it's Luke Keishel, who made his debut this year, or Matt Wallner, or others that played a role at different times in big performances for us on the offensive side, there's a lot in that room that we like. I just don't look at this team as the same as maybe other teams. I don't want to disparage anyone else across the game, but there are some times when you look in the room at the end of a tough season and you realize, okay, we're still some time away from being able to see what hope looks like. There's a lot of hope in that room. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of belief in the players in that room. I have it personally, and so my hope is that we can continue to get this group going in the right direction this offseason and show up in Fort Myers in spring and put ourselves in a good position.
Everybody good?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Just gonna bring
You
in
got it.
Jeremy, to talk a little bit more specifics about some players and the season roster stuff.
Yeah, good time.
Jay-Z?
No? Yes.
And some of the minor league stuff.
Yeah.
Players too.
Sure, Jeremy, just how difficult have the last 24 hours been for you?
Yeah, really hard day yesterday. You work really hard to build relationships, partnerships with the manager, with the staff. So whenever, you have a day like yesterday, it's definitely hard and have to sit with that and process it. And, that's an unfortunate reality of, pro sports and the situation we're in.
Do you feel like the minor leagues are fortified because of all the trades that were made? Give us an assessment of these names that are just names to us that we don't really understand that you've acquired.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about the group we have in the minor leagues. If you look at public rankings, anywhere from second, various levels of top 5 rankings. MLB has this as the number 2 farm system in the game. So when you acquire guys like Eduardo Tait and they're 18 years old and performing in high A and have power and the ability to catch and throw, that's really exciting. You got to see some of the guys that we acquired up at the big league level, Mick Abel, up and down and finishing really strong. So when we look across the board, we have guys like Walker Jenkins who, ended the year in AAA, unbelievable season between AA and AAA. Kalen Culpepper, couldn't have asked for anything more from him for his first full season, spending a lot of time in AA. And we look, at position players, we look at pitchers, and we're really excited about that whole group and think they're going to be a big part of our core moving forward.
How far away are some of these guys? I mean, is it realistic to think that Jenkins and Culpepper could be up here next year? Even a guy like Merrick Houston, I would think he's on a quick path to climb the ladder.
Yeah, for sure. I think we don't, I've said this, probably every year, at various points, we work really hard to not put specific timelines on guys because, you want to allow their natural maturation to play out. But, Walker has ascended through the system about as quickly as anyone across the game, and so his future is extremely bright. And, for all these guys, if they just keep doing what they're doing, they're going to be exactly where we want them to be. But I think one of the most exciting parts from my perspective, from our perspective, is how much of that talent is going to be in the upper levels, starting opening day 2026, and just puts us in a good spot to allow those guys to keep getting valuable experience and ascend from there.
How are your guys entering the offseason that are currently here? Any major injuries or surgeries that are going to happen in the next couple weeks to get ready for next year?
Yeah, for sure. So the big news, Luke Keeschel saw Dr. Sheridan in Arizona yesterday. He's going to have thumb surgery on his UCL in his thumb tomorrow. So he'll end up being, it's a similar procedure to what Alan Roden had, and ultimately he'll be full go for spring training, full expectation for that. And then the headline on the rest of the guys across the board is, ultimately they'll have normal off seasons and expect them to be full go for spring training from Pablo Lopez all the way down. So encouraging in that regard that we're not, as we sit here today, worried about guys, getting late starts or things along those lines.
Do you study the free agent market much and look who might be available? Obviously, this team is going to need infuse of something sooner than later in 2026. Do you have any thoughts on what that looks like in terms of who might be available or how active you can be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our group, up in the office and, across the organization, we, this time in October is where we do all of our work and homework, review the year, review the names, the potential trade targets, free agent class, all of those things. So we're going to be as prepared as possible for every opportunity that comes our way. And, ultimately, as we get through October and then the offseason actually kicks off from a transactional perspective, we'll be ready to go with whatever direction we need to.
Are there any players that are untradeable?
I think that's always a tricky, situation because you never want to speak, super directly on that when you don't know actually what the conversations could look like. Obviously, a lot has been made about Byron Buxton's no trade clause, and he's been adamant about how he wants to be a Twin forever. So we love Buck and excited that that's how he feels about the organization and the path forward. But I think to speak on any other individual guys, would be ill-advised, just knowing that we have to evaluate every opportunity as it comes our way and do everything we can to put ourselves in the best spot for 2026.
Jeremy, what characteristics do you like in a new manager?
Yeah, I think ultimately, I know Derek just touched on this, but when you think about potential candidates, we see that there are so many different profiles that are successful, that they really come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, different flavors. So I'm looking forward to getting to meet a lot of different people, learn more about them, their strengths, what makes them tick. But I think it could, what a great manager looks like can be a lot of different things, and ultimately we're going to just work to figure out what is the right partner for us, for the players, for the clubhouse, for the staff, and go from there.
Everybody good?